All right, let's do. Okay. Shalom, good morning. We are Kuf Chav Tes after Sif Yud. It's the middle of Hilchos Yain Nasech. Ovik HaChaim Sheshama Kol Sha'agas Aryeh Mafchadoi. He heard the lion roaring, and he got scared, or you could say, let's say there was a missile falling, whatever you want to say. And he hid between barrels of wine, Vasagar Hadelis Acharav, and he closed the doors in the cellar, and he closed the door after him. Mutter. Even if they're open, if they shu oimer shema Yisrael acher nechbekan, he said, well, maybe someone else ran into the cellar because the lion was running through the streets, or say there was a siren, whatever you want to say, and maybe there's no Yisrael here, and he's gonna be too scared to do nisuch. Yud Aleph, Ganovim shenichitzu lamarte. Ganovim who went into the wine cellar, upaschu chaviyos yayin, and they opened up wine. Imrov gam ve'ayir of the kochavim. If most of the Ganovim in the city are not Jewish, also because we assume it was the goyim opened it up and drank from it. Imru and Yisrael mutter, and if most of them are Yisrael, then it's mutter. V'imruban yishmeelim, and if most of them are Muslim or Arab, whatever you want to say, yishmeelim also b'shtia, then it would be also b'shtia. Well, now, of course, according to the Ramah, all non-Jews nowadays fit into or at least in Europe, fit into this category. B'shtia or mutter b'hana. And v'mutter b'hana. V'im yesh Yehudim shchuna levadam. If the Yidden have their own shchuna, the Jewish area, which which would probably more like be like a ghetto, basically, where they have their own. They have their own. In America, I guess in New York you might have it more, but by Rove, in Chutzar, it's by Rove. You're not going to have a shchuna, which is, you're going to have a lot of Jews, the Jewish area, but to say that that's Rove, I don't know. You have to know. In Yesh Yehudim shchuna levadam she'ein derech ha'ovdei kacholim b'mi mafsikasa. There is no road. The goyim don't pass through there at all. Maybe you have in New Square, Monroe, not Monroe, I mean Kirsio. Holchin Acher, maybe Muncie's with Holchin Acher Rovnei Hashchuna. We go after whoever's rove of the Hashchuna. Afapisha Rov B'nei Ha'ir of the Kochavi. Even though most of the city is going, but since that neighborhood is Jewish, rove of that neighborhood is Jewish, so then you would you go by that area. However, we're talking about Ganavim, in a place where they used to hide money in the bottom of their barrels, and they would stick the barrel full of money in between the other barrels of wine. I feel in Rov Gam Ve'ayir of the Kochavim Mutter. The Shema Lo Boel B'Shvil Monon. They didn't come. They weren't Ganavim. They were broke into the house and they had a party, enjoy the wine, drink the liquor, whatever. They were actually just looking for the money because Shero Shuyayin Lo Nagubo. And when they saw it was wine, then they. They wouldn't touch it. They wouldn't be touching it. They're looking for the wine. Like someone, someone told me, the real professional Ganavim, they said people think they can hide their money in this and hide their money in fake books and all these things or whatever. So all the real professional, Ganavim know that. And when they go into a house, they ransack a house. The house is basically it's every single thing is off a shelf. Everything is open. Everything is no. If they're looking for money, unless it's, even safes. I've heard stories of people taking the whole concrete block with them. The real professionals are real professionals. So they're looking for money. They're just going to spill all the wine. They're not looking to drink the wine and to have a party. But this is only if we see some sort of reyesa, higon shahayu tchila stumois v'niftachu. If they, if they're all sealed, they're all shut, now they're open. Well, imay stumois, into stumois, if they're shut and they're still shut, oh shah closed, oh shahayu kulam pesuchois, so we're all opened. If there's no reason to think that they touched the wine, nothing was disturbed and nothing looked like anything changed. So then then you don't have to worry about it. The stam ganav eni lokeach yain. A regular thief is not looking to drink wine, to take wine. If im haya b'miksasam reisa v'niftechu hacherim, listen, the ganav, the oisik b'malachtam, right? We had that case before. The oisik b'malachtam trying to steal, so they're not looking to drink. Im haya b'miksasam reisa. As you see, some of them were disturbed. V'niftechu hacherim, some were open. She'ein anu roim behem reisa. Right, and we didn't see any reisa. Then I'll call shari. She calls the Mairi. Sheish ganavim yaduim mina of the kachavim. That's only if you know that there are specifically that there are a group of ganavim, non-Jewish ganavim. Okay, obviously big cities, there's always a group, but if you're in a smaller town, that there's a certain gang of gang of thieves who are going through. When you do a gan of echad Yisrael, but if you know that there's there's the gan of the Jewish gan of but you don't know of specifically any non-Jewish ganavim. Talinim b'Yisrael hayedua. You say, oh, it must have been someone who broke in. It was the it was a Jewish thief. You don't have to assume. Again, we're talking right. We're talking about we're talking about if it's in in the Jewish area, Jew whatever. We're going to usually cross. But in a regular big city, you can assume now. They definitely assume that Rov Ganavim are not Jewish, and and anyway, unfortunately, the Jews go into jail for white collar crimes, not for going to houses. But that's unfortunate. That's not. I don't know if you can back this into the thing over here. Yud Beis. Chayil shenichnas le'ir. You have a platoon, or army, whatever, goes into the city. Soldiers nichnas beis Yisrael b'shas shalom, and they marched through and they went into the Jew's house in time of peace. V'chavios psuchos, any open barrels, afilu hein pekukois, even if they're like stuffed clothes, asuros. Even though you see they're not sealed, but they're just like lids on, whatever. They're not sealed. They're not sealed. The stumais, the magufa shel tit. But if they're sealed and they're actually sealed shut, mutaros. Those will be mutaros. Ubishas mechama. However, if they're marching through as a time of war, elu ve'elu mutaros, because they don't have time to go ahead and to start opening and drinking wine. Only those which were originally open. But if they are sealed and they open them, so you see there's a reyes. So you see that they went to try drinking wine, and so therefore you have to be choshish. Yugimel, ovek v'chavim shenimtza oimid eitzel hagas. You see, there's a non-Jew standing by the wine press. Im yesh ba tofeach amenasat tfiach. If it's still damp enough that when you touch it, it makes tofeach is if something's damp. Like you put your finger on it and it feels damp, but it doesn't. You can't. If you touch something else, it doesn't make it wet. Tefeach amenasat tfiach is if you touch it, it's wet enough that your finger touch it to something else, that it would make it wet. Pirush hayah hanasis lecha b'mago tachsar tasel lecha gam yad acheres. It touches the other hand. Tzarich hadacha v'nigov. You need to then you would need to clean the gas. You need to wash it down and dry it in order for it to be mutter. V'ilo, but if it's not amanasa tviach hadacha sagi, then it's enough to go ahead and just to go ahead and to wash it down, because we assume there is he's standing by the Jewish wine press, but the Shach says he's not afraid because there's no wine there anyway. He just sticks his finger there, so it's fine. It would be a problem. Yudalid Zona Ovedes Kochavim Mesibas Yisrael. If there is a zona, needs to be translated, non-Jewish zona by Jewish party, Hayayin, let's say Sudas Achashverosh, right? So Hayayin Mutter. She'ena menicha le'salanasech, because they're not going to go ahead and let her be menasech. Whatever reason she's there, but they're not going to let her be menasech. Aval zona Yisraelis mesiba tzavik kachavim. However, if it's a Jewish zona by a Goyish party, yena shel zoina gam aser gam. No, it's chazayin. I have a that's a. Oh, it must be a misprint here. I have a Chavzayin here. Okay, it's interesting. It's misprint. Gam Kain Aser. They say that it's also Aser because she's not going to stop them from touching her wine, whatever. Tezvav. He leaves his wine in the house with an open window. Zona, and he puts, I guess his wife's coming down the street. I don't know. He puts a zona there. The Sagar Adel is Acharav, and he closes the door after them. Ve'achar ba yisel matzah yeno kemoshe henichai mutter. And whatever, and Yisrael comes and finds the wine exactly how he left it, mutter, because or whatever they want, vite tarod, either he's hiding or whatever he's planning to do in that room is. The Shach says he's not when they're not being oisik. Not right now. They're not being oisik in touching wine, drinking wine. They're being oisik in other things. Test Zion. Fine. Okay. Yeah.